Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Unbreakable Life with Glory. This is Gloria Goldberg, the founder and the creator of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, and PTSD in a natural way and a holistic way to always make you feel better. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here again. This is, I think, my third show, if I'm not mistaken, in English. I come back from a long, maybe break in English, and I said, you know what? I need to start again my show because before the name was the bilingual show, the Gloria, and I changed it because we are renaming, rebranding everything to start a clean, fresh moment in my life because I'm starting with a lot of things in my life right now that is a new life. So today I'm coming with a very beautiful subject and also with a very special friend that I've been doing a lot of stuff with her in the past. I did a lot of stuff in the past and we're still doing even today. And for me, she is one of the most influenced people in my life because she saw my transformation 2 years and a half ago about wanted to talk about my kidnap situation because I do have a story why I create this podcast that I talk about depression, anxiety, and PTSD because I do suffer in the past of those three emotional illness or emotional problems or emotional issues, the way you want to say it. And 2 years and a half, I was sitting down in the couch and I didn't know what to do with my life. I was bored. I was bored. I was bored with my life. I was unhappy in that moment. And one day I found out a London Rio Academy and I said, I want to start doing podcasts because I think I want to share my story, the kidnap, but I don't know how to do it. And I was afraid to do it. So I saw the podcast. You can do it behind a camera. You just record it and post it on podcast a platform. And I said, wow, that's good. So I don't need to show my face because in that moment I was with a lot of fear. And when I started with London Rio, I met Kia Baker. She's my guest today, and she was the number one person that helped me to transform the podcaster that I am today. She gave me all the power, the enlightenment, the they told me, Gloria, your story is very powerful. You have to do it this way. Let's do it that way. And there was a moment that I said, no, I don't want to do it. And she said, yes, you can do it. You can do it. And that's why I said she was one of the most important people in my life. So I'm going to talk about her, Kia Baker. She's the founder and the creator of the Female Veterans Podcast. Also is the founder and the creator of the Hot Topics, the podcast. And she is the coach of London Rio. So let's welcome her in to Unbreakable Life with Glory, because today we're going to talk about depression, anxiety, and PTSD, a little bit of the three, and the veterans with the veterans. And Kia Baker is a U.S. Navy veteran. And her podcast, the Female Veteran Podcast, is about stories about different women. And also she already started like mixing a little bit about men, how they are after they serve the country. Some they have a lot of severe depression, some have severe anxiety, and some of them come with PTSD after they go and help in a war. So let's welcome Kia Baker to Unbreakable Life with Glory. Hi, Kia. How are you? Welcome to Unbreakable Life with Glory.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. I've been waiting a really long time for this invitation.
I'm so happy that you're here, Kia. And before we tell everybody who you are, because I give you a very brief introduction, I want you to tell everybody where's your location, what time is it, what time is now.
Well, it's 12:07 p.m. I am on the beautiful west coast of the United States, just north of Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. And I'm in Florida in Colorado Springs, and it's 3:07 p.m. So, Kia, how are you today?
I'm amazing. And by the way, thank you for such a beautiful introduction. It made me emotional. I feel emotional.
You know, Kia, you are one of the favorite people in my life. You saw my transformation from the beginning, and you've been watching me steal my transformation, and you being with me in every circumstance that I've been through in 2 years and a half.
Yeah.
And because of you, I achieved a lot of stuff, and that's why I'm the professional podcaster I am today, because of you.
Aw. Well, you have a big, important story, a big, important mission. And from the minute I laid eyes on you and I heard it, I knew exactly what I had to do and what you needed, which was just some encouragement and reassurance that it was the right thing. And, here we are today, and you're amazing.
Thank you so much. Because of you, thank you. So we're going to talk about something very important today. You know, my audience, we talk about depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And
Mhm.
I know we are not therapists and we are not doctors,
No.
that maybe we're certified to talk about this more deep, but we talk about more in awareness and open mind for people that to understand a little bit better about this illness. The name that we put of the podcast today was winning the war with invisible illness. Can you
Mhm.
explain to me why you choose that title for today?
Well, it is about invisible illnesses. And I also the tie-in with my podcast, the Female Veterans Podcast. I deal with military, and we're talking about some of those issues that affect a lot of people, but are often found in veterans. And these are invisible illnesses. And typically, when you see a veteran that's missing a limb or that has burns or something like that, a gunshot wound, you understand that what they've gone through, and people are much more empathetic to that because you can see what's happened to them. But with an invisible illness, you don't see it. So you can walk around looking completely healthy, and I know this from experience, but be suffering and completely unwell.
Hi, George.
And it is like a battle. Every day can be like a battle when you're fighting with your health, and no one around you can see what you're suffering with. It's not something that you can see, like a missing limb. When it's mental health or emotional health, these are invisible illnesses. And a lot of times we're shamed because of it, because the people around us don't understand PTSD. They don't understand anxiety and depression. More now, it's becoming more talked about thanks to shows like yours. But in the past, and I know I struggled with it personally, the stigmatization or the stigma of having an illness that other people can't see. So, and every day is like a battle.
Is very true what you just said. Is like we need more of this shows like your show. Also, hot topics also bring a lot of
Mhm.
awareness about this problems, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. So, Kia, why people in the military that serve this country, they suffer a lot after they come back when they supposedly they train them to be stronger and to help anything, and they make them like a superhuman superpower, and then when they come back they are like very distressed and having a lot of mental problems.
Well, there's a lot of contributing factors, but we are trained. We are trained very well. We're programmed to be strong, to be resilient, to be leaders, to have discipline. And because of that, we're able to do our job even when we're in great emotional distress. So if you can imagine being in a war zone and there's rockets coming in. Okay, we're seeing a lot of this in the news actually with Ukraine
Yes.
because of social media. We're able to really see what it's like in a war zone, right?
Hmm.
And when you hear the sirens going off, those people that are still there, they're having to go through life and complete a job each day while there's a constant threat on their life, right? So they're living in a state of fight or flight for an extended period of time. And this causes emotional distress. And that shows that it manifests itself oftentimes in PTSD, anxiety, and depression after the experience is done. And with military members, service members, no matter what country they're from, oftentimes there's a lot of guilt and a lot of unresolved trauma from losing people. Because what happens when you're in a war zone and you're doing your job every day and you are under the constant threat of death, because that's the reality,
Yes.
and you see people that you know and care about die. Now we all experience death in our life and how traumatic that is when you're not in a wartime situation. But and even though you sign up for the military, because these days none of us have been drafted, even though we volunteered, you don't really understand the gravity of it until you're in it, until it's going on around you. So when you live in that state for an extended period of time and you come back out of it, it takes a really long time for your central nervous system to recalibrate. And anyone who's dealt with any sort of trauma can understand that, whether it's military, whether it's child abuse, whether it's narcissistic abuse, whether it's any sort of trauma, your central nervous system is impacted. And to regulate that, to learn to regulate that again is a process, right?
It's a
Because we have
long
triggers.
process.
We
Yes.
get triggered. And a lot of times people don't have any education on any of this. So they don't understand that they're being triggered. They're reacting to things, but they don't understand what it is, why it is, or anything. And we see that a lot in the military now. And I also want to say you can serve in the military and not serve in a war zone and still have anxiety, depression, and PTSD from serving, just from
Really?
the environment. It depends on the base you were on. It depends on the job you were
Wow.
doing. It depends on a lot of factors. So I served in peacetime, yet I still have issues that would be considered Gulf War syndrome. And
Can
whatever
you,
I was at
what is the name?
Gulf War syndrome.
Can you explain that one so people understand?
Gulf War syndrome is a collection of illnesses that people acquired during the Gulf War due to different types of exposures. And this could be chemicals or anything like that. For me, I worked in the medical field, so it was likely that I was exposed to some sort of blood, and that is what caused me to have it by someone who was in the Gulf, because I served at the end of the Gulf War. I didn't not go over and deploy to Desert Storm, which was, I'm dating myself, but that's the war that was at that time. And so I'm not exactly sure how I was exposed, but most likely, even though we wore gloves and we took precautions, I was exposed during service to someone who probably had that sort of exposure, chemical exposure in Desert Storm. And so I had a collection of illnesses that manifested itself, um, such as fibromyalgia and chronic
Right.
fatigue and chronic migraines, all invisible illnesses. The one you can see the most is likely chronic migraine, because when it hits, you're unable to function, right?
Exactly.
So you're
Yes.
in bed and you have this headache, and people can understand a headache, even though you can't see it, because most people have experienced it at some point in their life. But there are other illnesses such as fibromyalgia, which our very first episode of Hot Topics Live
Yes.
was
And
about.
we both suffer from that.
Exactly, which is another invisible illness. But
Hmm.
Gulf War syndrome is a collection of, and it can be a lot of different illnesses and any combination of them that manifests itself in each person individually. So it's I would recommend, if you served in the Gulf or served stateside during that time period and you don't understand why you're not feeling well, to do the research. I did an interview with an organization called Operation Truth. um, you can try operationtruth.org and you can learn a lot about it there. But these are invisible illnesses, and people who serve are often, because of the stress, because of the reprogramming, because of everything that we experience while serving, we are often walking around with these illnesses that you can't see.
Yes. So you mentioned before that you also experiment some sort of depression
Mhm.
and also some sort of anxiety. Can you explain to my audience what exactly how you feel when you are depressed, and how you feel when you have anxiety?
Okay, so for me, depression manifests itself in a lack of desire to do the things that I typically like to do. I will notice that I am even more exhausted, but not, I am often physically exhausted, because this is part of the symptoms of chronic fatigue, and chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS, and also fibromyalgia. I also
Hmm.
live with Epstein-Barr virus, which is the virus that causes mononucleosis. And most people do not have mono more than once in their life, but in me, it manifests recurrently. So every few years, every 2, 3 years, I will have mono and I will be completely fatigued for 90 days. Whereas the
Wow.
depression on top of that means I have lack of interest in doing anything really. I'd like to sleep a lot and sort of escape life.
Hmm.
And I just feel mentally exhausted. Like everything is too much and I need to rest. I feel like I need deep rest when I'm depressed, and that I don't want to interact with people. I
Right.
don't
I know
want
that.
to I don't want to, I hide. I go within myself. I
Mm.
don't want to leave my house. I get a bit agoraphobic where I just don't want to leave my house. I don't even want to leave my bedroom. And I have no interest in anything that I love doing. And I love a lot of activities. I love my work. I love, creating. I love painting. I love dancing. I love singing. I love to go out. I love to shop. I like to spend time with my friends. And when I love to work out. And when I don't have any interest in any of those things, that's a strong indicator for me that something's wrong. And I experienced also pregnancy depression, what a lot of people don't talk about, with my
Right.
first child. And it was really debilitating, because I felt like I should be excited and happy to be pregnant, and I wasn't. And we hear more about postpartum now, but we don't
Right.
often hear people talking about pregnancy depression. And it's okay to not be okay even if you're pregnant. And I
Yes.
also suffered from postpartum, and I had no idea. My family did an intervention after 3 years and said, "Listen, you don't have any interest." And this is how I learned. I learned what my signs were for depression because my family told me. And they took me to the doctor, and I had to go and deal with it, you know? But that's how I learned. That is how I learned what my signs of depression were. Anxiety is different. Anxiety for me is racing thoughts. It's a accelerated heart rate. It's a constant feeling of fear or worry that is on repeat in my mind. And I just can't get out of it. I feel frightened or worried, excessively worried. And this will manifest itself in panic attacks at night or a generalized feeling of panic 24 hours a day. And
For
it's
real.
horrifying. It is the most horrible feeling, that just fear. I could shake, like I get very high strung and very, very nervous and worried. And again, I often have anxiety and depression at the same time. So it goes
Yes.
back and forth. So while
Yes.
I'm there feeling too exhausted to deal with the world and I'm laying in bed, which is what often happens, I spend a lot of time in bed, I am also having intrusive thoughts of worry and fear and almost irrational concerns. And it's very hard to manage.
Of course. Wow. So when you said earlier that you recognize when those symptoms are coming.
Mhm.
So what you do, you just let them be, and then when is the time for you to say, okay, I'm done with this, or is your body tells you done with it?
So nowadays, I manage it. I think preventative medicine is the best medicine, of course. Um, I feel like if I prefer not to medicate, but there has been times where I've medicated and I've taken things because I couldn't get myself out of it. I couldn't prevent it nor get myself out of it, and I needed help. And it's okay to need help.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But these days, I prevent it by um, eating well. I know that sounds strange, but gut health is really important. So eating well, um, giving myself things to look forward to, um, and treating myself really well. And if I find that I'm slipping, because I call it slipping into a depression. If I'm slipping into a depression, then I will seek support from friends and family. A lot of times talking, because this is why we go to therapy, right?
Right. To
So
talk.
talking it out can really help, with anxiety as well. And I think that is what I do a lot of times. Exercise. If you get too far into the depression, none of these things will work. That's why knowing your triggers and knowing the symptoms for you is really important, so that you can. But I try to prevent it by exercising. So if I'm eating well, if I'm on a regular exercise regimen, if I'm meditating, if I'm journaling, if I'm spending time with people I care about, like you, and talking about what's going on in my life and getting that proper feedback and advice, then I can prevent it from happening. And I've gone a really long time without a depression episode. Really
Me
long time.
too. Me too. I probably the one that I have, it was like 2 years and a half, but it was like a mile.
Hmm.
And then after that, when I start podcasting and doing all this, I remember have some of my days and I'm with anxiety too, but I feel like I'm getting better and better once you start knowing more and more and more about yourself, about your mind, about your body, because the body and the mind tells you
Hmm.
all the time, and sometimes we just don't pay attention. Is this when the body throw you into the bed like it does with you, like
Hmm.
you're not paying attention to the body, you're not paying attention what's going on, and then your body tells you, you know what, Kia, you have to go to rest, and then is when you go in bed.
Hmm. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes I do feel like I'm exhausted. I'm mentally and physically exhausted, and I allow myself to rest. But
Yes.
I go, okay, this happened. I'm triggered or I'm upset about this thing that happened, and I'm going to go and rest. But I'm going to give myself, I started with 48 hours. This is a trick from Beyonce, by the way, because she's a high performer, right? But she obviously goes through things in life and she has to manage it. We all have to manage it. So learning about emotional regulation of your nervous system is key right?
Yes.
And understanding your triggers, like I said. But sometimes allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling is really what you need. So if something happens that would normally set me off into a path of depression, what I will do now is recognize that what those feelings are
And why?
and honor them and why. And then if I need to go lay down in my bed for a day or two, I started at 48 hours, and after 48 hours, it was 5 4 3 2 1 up and get busy with something that I love doing, creating or singing or whatever it is that I love doing, go do it, right? Because my mission is greater than that.
Yes.
So it's important to find purpose in your life, because that will help you avoid depression and anxiety more than anything.
Yes.
Is finding purpose and having a mission and working towards that goal. It'll keep you going, as well as having things to look forward to. Like, I'm taking a trip, I'm going to go to the spa, I'm going to do these activities. Having something to look forward to is also key. So now I'm down to 24 hours, which is what Beyonce does. 24 hours to feel your feelings, cry, scream, punch air, do whatever you have to do to feel it, and then emotionally regulate yourself through your nervous system and bring yourself back to center. And then get up and keep going.
Okay, so what the people that cannot go to sleep because they need to work, they need to provide, and if they stop one day, they struggle, but they also struggling with depression and anxiety, and they have to go and do stuff that probably don't want it. They don't have that time of say, okay, I can go and rest for 2 days and contemplate my depression. So what you would recommend people that cannot do that?
Well, you're going to go through the motions. But at the same time, let me preface this by saying I work 7 days a week. Okay. I work 7 days a week. And so I understand that I'm very busy. And these days I don't have time. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I had a lot more time to take to my bed and have days to like deal with it. I don't. So you go through the motions, to be honest with you, and you're still processing what you have to process while you're doing that. So you're still working, you're still doing what you have to do. But in between, then you have to find the time, you have to take the time to journal or to meditate or to regulate your emotions when you can. Maybe it's before bed, maybe it's first thing in the morning, but you do have to find the time. Maybe it's while you're doing your work day, but you're working, but at the same time, you're processing through these emotions and doing that, because I think that's what most people have to do. And then if you have time on the weekend or whatever, if you need to take to your bed, you take to your bed. You come home from work and you get right in bed. That's what a lot of people do. They work, and then as soon as they get off work, they get home and they get on their couch, or if you're Netflix and chilling, that's your perfect time to work on your emotional state. Talk to your friends, process your emotions, do what you have to do.
This morning when I interview my English guest and my Spanish guest, he also recommend that educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, okay, I have depression. Why I have depression, and how I get this depression, where this depression is coming from, and start like educating yourself, reading books, and also in telling the family that they're going through an emotional moment, and also the family to engage, not to help the person in any way, but I start like all the family educate themselves about around a person who is depressed, around a person who have anxiety, or a person who have PTSD. Because he said this morning, the person who have PTSD in some way in their life will react. They will get triggered, and we don't know when we're gonna get triggered.
No.
We don't know. But the families around, because I know a lot of families get struggle a lot when they see one member of the family very depressed or have a lot of anxiety and also suffer from PTSD, sometimes they don't know what it is and how it is. And the education is the most important one, because the people around you, they need to also to understand you when you are in your moments. Because it's not about, oh, you know, she's depressed and everybody need to be quiet. No, we all, the family, if they want to help someone, they all needs to be on the same page and educate themselves. And also the family ask this question: do we did something to provoke that depression? Do anybody in the family did something that provoked that depression or that anxiety? So start investigating what happens, because it's like a case. A depression is a case. Something happened in the childhood or something happened in the early moments of their life. But it's you have to get like depression especially like a case. Why this person is like that? Sometimes it comes from the generational, and also from another lives that you come with that you don't know why, and you have a perfect family but you still have depression. So there's like a different cases that people needs to be aware to where the depression coming from, because they always is somewhere, but the point is the education is lacking, and that's why we are here talking about these subjects.
I mean, I agree with that. Education is so necessary, as is understanding your triggers. And sometimes you don't know what those are. Most of us don't know what those are or where they came from. So it is a process of learning yourself, especially if you're really young. If you're in your teens or your 20s, you may have no idea where your depression came from or what your triggers are or for your anxiety. You know, so it's about learning yourself. It is about understanding what those triggers are. And like you said, a case. I think education and communication is essential. I think it's important for families to, if you're talking, have this conversation. And if you have a loved one that is suffering, to educate yourself. It's like my child has ADHD and neurodivergent symptoms, right? And understanding those, you know, when he was younger, he used to get in trouble for things that I've learned that he can't help. So it is important for families to understand the unique needs of their loved ones, because that's what they are. They're unique needs, and educating yourself and understanding them and formulating strategies to be supportive, but also that communication of, what do you need? How can I support you? Maybe supporting them is leaving them alone.
Exactly.
You know, maybe they just need a little time to themselves to chill. You know, maybe
and don't say anything, don't talk about anything, leave them alone and see what happens.
Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes they just need an ear. Sometimes they need a hug. Sometimes it could be anything that could just show that you're there and be supportive. But these are unique needs, and understanding them and communicating them is key in being in the person's life, whether it's, you know, a mother, father, brother, sister, friends,
and you know,
another.
And a lot of these issues also come from the fetal, like when the mother had the baby inside of the belly. When you're pregnant, also some issues of depression, some problems in depression comes also from the mother, because the mother was depressed in the moment, and the baby feel that emotion. So the baby also can generate that later on and show that depression in some way. And I don't know, but for me, what I see, the most important thing is to study the families and see the generational path that our families, each family have, and see where are the things that we need to correct. Because you born in a nucleus, or you born in a family that family need your support. In each family, there's always somebody that wake up. There's always somebody that, okay, why in the family we fight a lot? Why we fight? Why we lie a lot? why we are so violent, why we cheat a lot, why, all these kind of traits that a lot of families does, it come from generationals. So when somebody is in the family very with a lot of depression, get the family as like I said before, like a case, and start studying the traits. And probably your grandmother was depressed, and you have depression, but you don't know where that coming from. So for me, the most important thing is to study your life and go and journey like you do when you have your depression, and journey all the things and study. If you have your grandfather, your grandmother alive, ask questions, how they raised them, how was their mother with them. And you can see, without just making questions, you can see the trait of the family, where you need to cut the chain for your generation to come be better, because we have good traits and bad traits. Bad traits is not bad traits, but traits that are not really good for us. And you cut it right there for the next generation to continue. But a lot of people are lacking the education. And the other day I talked to someone that we said, wow, we went to a place and people don't understand the way we was talking. And then we realized that yes, there's a lack of education, because when we are in the same vibration, or we are in this when we are in the same vibration, we hook with the same people, and we think that we talk in the same language. But then when you go to other places, there's people that don't even know what you're talking about. So it's very important, the education. What do you think about all this, about the education of ourselves and the families?
Oh, it's really important. I mean, when you think about it, you go to the doctor, right? And they say, does anyone in your family have a history of cancer
Of cancer.
or high cholesterol or diabetes? You know what I mean? It's like understanding what came before you and what the likelihood of you to experience that is, in order to prevent it, right? Because preventive medicine is the best medicine. But when
Right.
you have to learn, like what you said about pregnancy depression in the children. I suffered from pregnancy depression. I have seen depression manifest in my son, and I have had to tell him, listen, some of that feeling, that energy that you are experiencing is not your own. So we
Exactly.
have to have strategies that help you when you feel like you're going into this place, you know. And as a teenager, teenagers deal with it with hormonal changes and unstable emotions, which is part
Hmm.
of growing up. And then I live in an area where people are often depressed because it rains a lot. So understanding the importance of vitamins and vitamin D and all of that is important. And so there's so much education, really. There's so much needed.
Yes.
Understanding, generational trauma is, a lot of people have no idea what that is, or that it
No.
could be impacting them. So I think learning these things on programs like this, there are programs where they discuss it, is really important to helping you to break the cycle. So, we've all heard like breaking the cycle of child abuse or abuse, right?
Yeah.
You want to break the cycle. This is the same thing. It's understanding how to stop it from going forward, and teaching
Exactly.
teaching the people in your life and your children how to heal and how to regulate their nervous system, and what to recognize their triggers. This is how we stop those generational traumas from perpetuating. We break the cycle.
Exactly. So I'm going to change a little bit of this subject. I want to talk about the Female Veteran podcast.
Okay.
Why did you create this podcast?
Well, I created it because, number one, there is a prevailing perception that veterans are men, even in 2022, right? I still get asked if my husband is the veteran, my ex-husband, and he is not. Okay, he did not serve. So, so number one, that is first and foremost. Number two, I wanted to create awareness of what women experience while serving in the military. So the podcast is about good and bad stories of active duty services, transitioning back to civilian life, and what they're doing now. And it is an amazing experience to be able to talk to these women who have served in every branch and hear what their experiences were, good or bad. And then another reason was that I'm often asked by young women about joining the military. And this is kind of a way for them to, they can listen to the podcast, they can listen to both the good, both the bad, and make an educated decision on how to proceed with their military career.
Right. And what about Hot Topics, the podcast?
So Hot Topics, the podcast, was created as kind of like a passion hobby because I love talking to female veterans, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to be able to interview people from all around the world about positive things and put good out into the world through that way. As you know, we started it together. You
Yes.
still come and visit me and appear on the show as often as you can, which I love. And we just have a great time talking to people and finding out what they're doing to make this world a better place. And it's a weekly reminder from me to anyone who happens upon it that they are amazing, that they are worthy and deserving of living their best life. And here are some ways to do that. And that's what Hot Topics is about.
So, Kia, any project that you working right now for the future?
I'm always working on
Oh, let's talk about London Real.
Yeah, so London Real obviously is what I call DeFi Real now. Brian is, so if you haven't seen London Real, go to YouTube and type in London Real TV or London Real, and you'll see my mentor Brian Rose come up, and you'll get to see episodes of his show. And it's quite popular. And right now he is hyper focused on cryptocurrency. He really believes that it is going to allow a lot of people to live their best life financially free. And so what we're doing there is now coaching people on how to understand crypto to get started and to start, getting involved in that ecosystem and finding their specific niche in that and getting involved. I think that's the most important thing, is getting involved and understanding that it's the way of the future. It's not going anywhere, and helping them get a basic understanding of, making moves in that space. So I love it. I love coaching people. It's probably one of my favorite things to do that I didn't know what I would love to do so much. I just got a promotion, and now I am working with the mid-level product, which is the high-end investment group for, we call it the Millionaires Club. So I'm working with them with their crypto and holding space for them to learn and grow and have a community. So that's really fun for me. As far as projects go, I'm working on building my crypto portfolio, as well as I have a documentary project that's been on the back burner for a while, but it's about that time for me to get started with that again. I am working on a book right now. It is a female veterans podcast presents type of book, and it's female veteran stories, a collection of them. So it's a book anthology. I think that will be out by the end of the year. We're very close to going to editing. So I have all the stories, and we're going to go to editing probably in April. And what else? For now,
what about the charities that you do? Like you help some, like two charities, Passageway, and the other one is the one in Florida.
Hope for Veterans, right? So I'm on the board of directors for Hope for Veterans, which is an organization that helps female veterans in Florida with peer support. So because I lived in Florida for a really long time as a veteran, there were not a lot of services. I know, and there are a lot of veterans, especially women in Florida. So
Mm.
it was important to me to give back and to help. So I support that charity as well as Passageways, which is in Kansas, and they have a home for. They started with men. They're about to start working with women because of our connection, and they take them. They help them get clean. They help them transform their lives, and they graduate them and help them get their own apartment, jobs, cars. Like, it's everything to get the veteran who's down on their luck back on their feet and thriving in life, which I cannot love enough. And I don't believe that anyone who served their country should not come back here to having at least their basic needs met. It's just not right. So
It's not right.
I love that they do that. And now they're going to be helping women, and they are working on the first ever, if I get this right, housing community for veterans. And so it's called Homefront. So if you want to donate or get involved, look up PassagewaysLTD.com and you can support them with that project. It's huge. It's beautiful. And I love them so much. I also work with a female organization for civilian women, not just military women. It's called Arras, and they are amazing. They tell women's stories, and so I love that as well. And I am a huge supporter of burnpits.org. They help with one of the more recent illnesses that for veterans that people don't know about, which is exposure to burn pits, which is burning trash. And a lot in Iraq and in the Middle East, they burn everything. And these pits are burning 24 hours a day. And if you work in that area, you're breathing in those chemicals all the
Right.
time. So they're working very hard
Yes.
to get legislation passed about that. And I support that because, there are so many veterans. I mean, we were in the Middle East for 20 years. And if you don't even count Desert Storm. So our service members have suffered, and they've had to fight. We have to fight. People don't realize that we come back and we have to fight the government to recognize the illnesses that we've acquired while serving. And so many veterans are sick with various things. And a side effect of those things, being sick all the time, is depression and anxiety and the PTSD
And
from
PTSD.
serving on top of that. So it is a mission that is dear to my heart, and I love what they're doing. So I support them as well.
That is awesome. So, Kia, before we wrap it up, I want you to tell today to the people who suffer from depression or anxiety, or they are thinking to take their lives away, what would be the message that you want to give them today?
There's always a chance that things can get better. There's always a chance that things can get better. And there's always someone, you may not have met them yet, that will love you and care about you. So you may not have met them yet, and you may feel like no one will give a crap if you're gone or not. You just might not have met them yet. So there's always a chance. Don't give up. There's always an opportunity for things to get better. So talk to somebody. Don't suffer in silence, and reach out. There's no shame in needing meds. There's no shame in going to therapy. There should be no stigma in working through your issues and addressing your mental and emotional health.
Exactly. It's better for you to talk. It's better for you to be open, and that way people can listen to you and probably can save your life if you are in emotional distress right now. And to let you know that we all suffer in a way. Kia in her life, she suffers in some way. I suffer in some way. Everybody suffers in different way. But that's what we are here trying to create awareness and to bring you a little bit of peace of mind, to tell you that you're not alone, that we are here and we are going to be here with this mission until, in my case, until the day I die, because that's my mission. And I love my mission, and I want you to feel better, like I always said.
I love that you say that. And I just want to say that one more thing is survive. Survive. Because you
Survive.
don't know that one day your story might be someone else's survival guide. So survive. If not for yourself, for that person.
Exactly. So Kia Baker, thank you so much to be on Unbreakable Life with Gloria today. And I love you so much. And thank you to collaborate with me tonight or today, because tonight in some places and today. So I know this is not gonna be it's not gonna be our first and our last. We're gonna come and do more shows together. We talk about different topics, especially depression and anxiety, to help others to feel better. Thank you so much to be in Unbreakable Life with Glory.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. Bye-bye. Well, very interesting episode today. I love it because we talk about real stuff that Kia and me sometimes we go through. It's like silence. You probably sometimes can see us doing the show, and we are going through some rough moment behind the camera, but we keep going because we are perfect. We make mistakes. We are perfect, but we make mistakes, and life is every day different. And we cannot pretend that life every time is rosy. We wish life would be rosy, but at the same time, if life is rosy all the time, it would be a little bit boring, and you get you get stuck. You don't learn. When you life give you and throw you the ball, the curveball, that's the moment for you to learn. That's the moment for you to understand why life is giving you that, because it's for you to learn and for you to serve somebody else from your experience, from whatever you're going through. So thank you so much, everybody, to be in Unbreakable Life with Glory. And I see you next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, Miami time, in Spanish. And next Wednesday also at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in the afternoon in English. So everybody have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And my mission is done for today. Thank you so much. I love you all.